All right, welcome back to another episode of Straight Talk. We're here in the Istanbul studios of Property Turkey with Cameron Diggin. And today we're going to talk about off-plan. All right, Cameron. So we're talking about off-plan, basically under construction projects, yeah? Is there any advantages of purchasing off-plan properties in Turkey over other real estate markets?
Yes, there are, and simply put, it's the cost. There
Yeah.
is a cost advantage.
What's that How much is that cost, Cameron? What are we talking
It
about?
could be up to 25%. In Turkey, in larger cities in Turkey in particular, we're not now talking about small projects of 4 or 5 houses.
Nah.
There's no economies of scale there
Yeah.
for there be any advantage. We're talking about larger projects, 500, 1,000 units, comprehensive projects.
Yeah.
Yes, in such projects whose project lifespan could be 3-4 years,
Yeah.
a minimum 2 years anyway, there is quite a significant advantage, cost advantage of buying up off plan, which could be as much as, 25-30%.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, I get that. But why is it that there is such a huge cost advantage in this,
In Turkey.
in Turkey?
Well, it's basic, because let's compare Turkey to England. In England, a medium-sized or a large-sized credible developer, when they start developing a project, they would go to the bank, and the bank would extend development finance to them.
Okay.
And the cost of borrowing that the bank would charge a credible developer with a strong track record is palatable. I'm not going to give a figure, but it's not a prohibitive cost.
Okay.
In other words, the cost of borrowing that the developer will pay the bank is not large enough to carve into their margins. It's manageable cost.
Yeah.
Whereas in Turkey, development finance through the banks is, one, less available to developers, and two, even if it was available, the cost of borrowing for the developer is 3-4 times the cost of borrowing that the UK developer would have. Which means that if you're a developer, you'd be less willing to go to the bank for finance. So what you would do is, you would go to general public. You'd go to investors, initial investors, that would come in at off-plan, even pre-plan stage. They would almost bankroll the project. They would put up that initial 20-30% of the cost that helps the project get started.
All right, I get that. The cost of borrowing is a major player here. I personally ask this question to myself as well. What kind of a guarantee do we have? Or rather, is there a guarantee? Because I am investing money into bricks and mortars. This is not a project that is completed. I am really hoping that the developer finishes the project and I would then be able to move in or make money out of it. But there are good and well options here that the developer can decide to leave the project or go bankrupt, or any bad stuff can happen, so that I'm basically putting my money in danger. What kind of assurances do I have?
Well, in short, you don't really have an official guarantee.
Yeah.
And anyone tells you that there is an official guarantee, I think they are exaggerating the truth, or they are misleading you. There are no official guarantees. There is no government body that guarantees off-plan investments in Turkey. I don't think there are any similar bodies in other countries either.
Yeah.
So when you are buying off-plan and when you're investing off-plan, as we said, you are putting yourself at a significant cost advantage because you're buying well below market value, let's say.
Yeah.
But obviously, like with every profit, there is a risk.
Yeah.
So you are taking on a risk, and the discount that you actually get is a reward for taking that risk.
Yeah.
So in short, no, there isn't a solid guarantee.
But I have been seeing this a lot in the
Yes.
market, circulating in the market, that there's this government guarantee
Yes.
on some projects.
Yes.
Is that a fact or it's a fiction?
Well, the phrase itself, government guarantee, which generally refers to government partnered projects, such as projects where there's the involvement of either Emlak Konut or TOKI. These are the two main government bodies that partner up with private developers in developing generally large-scale projects,
Large scale, in this case, is
residential
like a
projects, and other public
Yeah.
projects too, like bridges, schools,
Projects,
etc.
okay.
But we're talking about residential dwellings, projects. Even in those circumstances, the government does not guarantee anything. So the very fact that you see this phrase coined in many websites
Yeah.
as government guarantee, and I have to admit, our website does the same,
Yeah.
it's misleading. There is no such thing as government guarantee. However, compared to completely private developers, when you are purchasing off plan, and if you're purchasing off plan from one of those developers that are in partnership with either Emlak Konut or TOKI, your risk is definitely less. Why? Because you have, generally speaking, a 50% partner within the project as the Turkish government or a body of the Turkish
In
government.
that case, I would tend to think that my risk is very low to none if I'm dealing with a project that is partnered with government, because at the same time, I'm dealing with Turkish government too. Am I not?
I would never say your risk is none. Never.
Yeah.
In my opinion, even if you buy government bonds of the most secure economies in the world, you always have an element of risk.
Yeah.
But the government bonds will pay you 2%, 3% per annum,
Yeah.
if that, which represents the very low nature of that risk. So higher the return,
Yeah.
lower, higher the risk, obviously.
Yeah.
So in Turkey, if you are investing off plan in one of these so-called government guaranteed projects, then you have less risks. That's true. However, I wouldn't like any of our viewers to fall for this phrase called government guarantee and to walk away thinking that government in any shape or forms guarantees your purchase as Aladdin. No, they don't.
But here's my thinking. Construction industry, the construction sector, is the primary sector in Turkish economy.
True.
And it's very important for Turkey, and Turkish government is
Hugely important.
Hugely important.
Yes.
That's basically the most important. Okay,
Yes.
so I don't really believe that the Turkish government is going to tarnish its reputation
No.
for what it is, the most important industry for them, construction
Absolutely.
right now, by non-delivery. The Turkish
100%.
government
I
wouldn't do
agree with that.
So
I agree with
especially if we're talking about foreign direct investment here, because that's what it is.
Yes.
Now, my thinking is that although there might be some risk associated with this, margin, the profit margin that I'm making 25 to 30%, I am still dealing with the best developer in the country, or rather, the most secure. I'm taking the most secure option, the Turkish government, right?
I think I could agree with that. What I would say is if you're buying off plan, and if what you're buying is a government partnered project as compared to normal standard private projects, your risks are minimized. That's a fact. And
Okay.
I would certainly agree with that. I would certainly agree with that. The other circumstances where you touched upon it before we went into government guarantee, if you are purchasing off plan with a private developer and the developer goes down,
Yeah.
they go bankrupt, they can't finish. What happens then? Do you lose your money? You might do, yes, you might do. However, if you have invested in a large scale project that is a prominent project, then the chances are that if the developer does a runner or goes bankrupt or for some reason cannot complete the project,
Yeah.
the chances are the government will appoint an administrator to come to take over the project and deliver it.
Yeah.
In Turkish, that's known as kayyum.
Yeah.
So they would appoint a kayyum to take over the project and complete it. In fact, in the last 5 years, I can count at least 10, 12 projects where the government has successfully appointed administrators, and those administrators have indeed completed the projects. Having said that, for an investor, your delivery date would have slipped by a few years, but that's the least that you
Yeah.
you will face. But at the end of the day, the project will be completed. So there is that as a bit of a security, but obviously it's case by case.
But this is out of curiosity.
Yes.
There is no, in any shape or form, a kind of a law that is going to protect your off-plan sort of investment, right? Just to make sure.
Look, there isn't. There isn't. And in fact, you pressed upon a rather interesting subject here. Look, in certain countries, developers, when you purchase off plan, what they would do is the money that you pay the developer takes that money into an escrow account. So they don't actually release those funds into the project. They put those funds into an escrow account pending delivery of the project. Like in the UK, that happens quite a lot. But again, this is not going to happen in Turkey. Why? Because putting the money into an escrow account means you haven't got that money
Yeah.
to pump it into the development of the project, which then means that you're going to use that escrow account as security and yet again go to the bank for finance. Then for the developer, that kind of defeats the purpose.
Yeah.
The developer is back to square one or borrowing at high cost finance from a financial institution.
Okay.
So they're not going to do that. So the whole escrow system, the reason I explain this is quite a few of our clients who are used to such escrow systems in off-plan developments ask these questions to us. And they basically say, oh, why don't the money go into an escrow account like it would do in such and such country?
Yeah.
Well, it's not, because if it was to, then you wouldn't be getting such a discount
Yeah.
for buying off-plan.
True. All right. Okay. I think the point of this subject, if we are to close the show, is basically buying off plan will get you a good discount,
But
but
it
at the
is
same
risky.
time, there's a risk associated with it.
However, I do not wish to at all put anyone off. Personally, myself, I'd say 50% of all my investments
You're
in
an
Turkey
off-plan investor. Let's
have
be
been
honest.
off-plan.
Yeah.
So if I've done it,
Yeah.
that means I believe in it.
Yeah.
But what I would say is, if you're going to be investing off-plan,
Be careful.
be careful.
All right.
Yeah.
End of another show. See you on the next one.